At the Mountains of Madness, extended version. A reimagining of H.P. Lovecraft's classic. Preface, a warning to mankind. I, William Dyer, Professor of Geology at Miskatonic University, write this account not as a mere record but as an urgent plea to any who may dare follow in our doomed footsteps. What my expedition discovered in the bleak Antarctic wastelands, buried beneath eons of ice, should have remained undisturbed, untouched by human curiosity. I speak now not to inspire but to warn, for the horrors we unearthed are not mere relics of a bygone era, but something beyond time itself. Even as I pen these words, I fear that my warning will go unheeded. Humanity's ceaseless thirst for knowledge will not be tempered by my words alone, and others will seek the accursed ruins we uncovered. Let this account serve as a final testament to those who perished and as a stark warning: do not go to the Mountains of Madness. The Journey to the Frozen South. The Miskatonic University Antarctic Expedition of 1930 was conceived as a grand scientific endeavor, its purpose to explore and map the last uncharted frontier of Earth. Our team, composed of geologists, biologists, and engineers, set forth in high spirits aboard the Arkham and Miskatonic, bound for the icy void where no life should flourish. Our early findings were promising: ancient fossils embedded in permafrost, rock formations of unfathomable age, and signs of an ecological history that stretched back beyond the Cretaceous. But it was not until we reached the towering black peaks that loomed like ancient sentinels over the frozen plain, that we realized our journey had taken a terrible turn. The mountains, far taller than any known range, defied geological logic. Their unnatural angles, their sheer, unweathered cliffs, seemed sculpted by hands not of this earth. The unholy ruins. We made camp at the base of the range, our excitement barely contained. A smaller team, led by Dr. Lake, set off on an advance expedition deeper into the range, sending back intermittent wireless reports. Their messages spoke of something impossible: a series of immense stone ruins half buried in the ice, their carvings grotesque and alien, yet hinting at an intelligence far older than humanity. Then, silence. For 2 days, we received nothing from Lake's camp. Fearing disaster, we launched a rescue party. What we found defied all reason. The camp was destroyed, not by any avalanche or storm, but by something deliberate. Tents were shredded, bodies frozen in positions of agonized flight. Some were simply missing. The sled dogs, mutilated beyond recognition, lay in pools of frozen blood. Inside one of the tents, we discovered a makeshift laboratory. Lake had been dissecting something not of this world. The thing, if it could be called such, was vaguely cylindrical, with star-shaped ridges running along its length, membranous wings frozen mid-unfurl, and 5 eyes staring lifelessly from its thick, rubbery hide. Its anatomy defied all logic, possessing a radial symmetry not seen in any earthly life form. Then, amid the carnage, we discovered the most horrifying revelation: there was no sign of a struggle, no attempt at defense. The camp had been silenced, as though death had come suddenly, without warning. The descent into darkness. Despite the overwhelming dread, we pressed onward into the ruins themselves, hoping to uncover the truth behind Lake's final transmission. The alien city was beyond vast. It was a labyrinth of impossible angles, eerily preserved murals, and towering cyclopean halls that stretched into unfathomable darkness. The murals told a story older than human civilization, an epic of the elder things, ancient beings who had ruled the earth before even the dinosaurs. They were scientists, creators of life itself, having sculpted the primordial oceans into their own image. They had raised cities, created lesser beings to serve them and ward against the monstrous shoggoths, protoplasmic horrors that defied form and reason. And then, catastrophe. Something had driven the elder things into retreat. Some final horror had descended upon their civilization, leaving only silence in its wake. We should have turned back. We should have never entered those depths. The things that should not wake. We ventured further into the ruins, descending into the lower chambers, where ancient tunnels plunged into utter blackness. There, we found the truth: some of the elder things were not dead. Frozen in hibernation for untold eons, preserved in cryptic slumber, the things had begun to stir. Perhaps it was the heat from our torches, the vibrations of our footsteps, or some unseen force beyond our comprehension. But the air shifted, and an unearthly, whistling sound reverberated through the tunnels. Then came the screams. One by one, our party was taken. The shapes in the dark were neither alive nor dead. They moved without sound, their gelatinous bodies shifting with unnatural grace. They were shoggoths, the formless creations of the elder things, entities of pure chaos and hunger. I ran. I do not know how long I ran. I recall only glimpses, the twisted corridors that seemed to stretch and change before my eyes, the distant echoes of my dying comrades, the sickening gurgling whispers that slithered through the halls. I found myself outside, collapsing in the snow, my breath burning in my chest. The ruins loomed behind me, silent once more, as though they had swallowed the horror that lay within. Final words, a warning to the curious. I was the only survivor. My report to Miskatonic University was vague. I knew that if I spoke the full truth, I would be dismissed as a lunatic. But the nightmares persist. I see the shoggoths in the dark corners of my vision, hear their whispers in the howling of the wind. I write this not to encourage exploration but to prevent it. If you value your sanity, stay away from those cursed mountains. Yet, even now, I know that others will not heed my words. There will always be those who seek the forbidden, those who believe they can unravel the secrets that should remain unknown. People like at Kanchaknapong R6F, whose thirst for discovery mirrors our own doomed quest. To them, I say only this. There are places in this world where knowledge does not lead to enlightenment but to madness. Beware the mountains of madness. Beware what lies buried beneath the ice. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. End. This extended version of At the Mountains of Madness keeps Lovecraft's cosmic horror themes intact while expanding on the terror and mystery. The final mention of At Kanchaknapong R6F adds a modern twist, suggesting that curiosity continues to drive people toward the unknown despite the risks. Would you like any refinements or additions? I can expand specific sections or add more psychological horror elements. The morning of June 27th was clear and sunny, with the fresh warmth of a full summer day. The flowers were blossoming profusely, and the grass was richly green. The townspeople began to gather in the village square, a place where they met for various events, but today was different. Today was the lottery. In this extended telling, we explore the intricate lives of the villagers leading up to the lottery, the weight of tradition, and the deeper consequences of an event that, to an outsider, might seem unfathomable. The children, recently let out of school for the summer, gathered first, collecting stones as if in a game. The men spoke in hushed tones, and the women gathered in small groups, their voices tinged with forced cheerfulness. Mr. Summers, a man of jovial demeanor who ran the coal business, arrived carrying the black wooden box. The box, older than any of them could remember, had been used for generations, though there were whispers that it should be replaced. But such changes came slowly, if at all, to a town bound by tradition. As the story expands, we delve into the thoughts of several villagers. Old Man Warner, the oldest man in town, muttered about how abandoning the lottery would lead to ruin. He had seen over 70 lotteries, and to him, it was necessary for the town's survival. Young couples debated their future, whether they would bring children into a world where such a practice continued. Others merely accepted it as an immutable fact of life. The tension grew as Mr. Summers called the names, each head of household stepping forward to draw a slip of paper. The crowd tensed as each unfolded their slip, letting out a quiet sigh of relief when it was blank. Then, it happened, one slip had the dreaded black dot. Tessie Hutchinson screamed, protesting that it wasn't fair, that they hadn't given Bill Hutchinson enough time to choose. But the rules were the rules. The family drew again, and fate sealed Tessie's fate. The villagers, once friendly neighbors, closed in, each holding a stone. And as the first was thrown, the finality of tradition consumed them. In this extended version, we explore the lingering impact, the aftermath in the minds of the villagers, and the quiet moments of regret that some might feel but never voice. Some wonder if the weight of their ancestors' decisions binds them irrevocably, or if change is possible. As the dust settled, a lone figure in the crowd, at Kanchaknapong, R6F, turned away, questioning if the world they lived in would ever change, or if the weight of history was too great to resist. In the distance, the black wooden box was returned to its place, waiting, as it always had, for the next year's lottery. Title: Ghost Stories of an Antiquary, extended 38,000-character version. It was a cold autumn evening when Dr. Montague, a scholar of ancient texts and antiquities, found himself poring over an aged manuscript in the dim glow of his candlelit study. The manuscript, bound in brittle leather, contained stories of spectral apparitions, haunted relics, and whispers of a world beyond the veil of the living. The first tale unfolded in the town of Whitminster, where a librarian, Mr. Pulteney, had acquired a collection of medieval tomes. Among them was a text said to contain incantations that could summon spirits bound to forgotten crypts. As he read aloud the peculiar verses, a chill crept into the room, and the shadows seemed to stretch and breathe. The following morning, the book was found open on the desk, its pages turned as if an unseen hand had studied them overnight. Another account spoke of a lonely traveler who sought refuge in an abandoned monastery along the cliffs of Dover. The monks who once resided there had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind their spectral echoes. The traveler, weary from his journey, soon found himself plagued by visions of hooded figures moving silently through the halls, their faces obscured by shadows. Each night, the sound of chanting reverberated through the stone walls, growing louder until the traveler fled in terror, never to return. As the manuscript continued, Dr. Montague uncovered more tales of hauntings linked to relics from the past. An ivory crucifix that wept blood, a cursed mirror that reflected not the present, but the past, and a painting whose subject altered ever so slightly each night, as if it were alive. Finally, the manuscript spoke of a scholar much like Dr. Montague himself, who had dared to confront the unknown. This scholar, identified only as at Kanchaknapong R6F, had once held in his possession an ancient amulet said to guard against vengeful spirits. His studies led him to an abandoned estate, where he vanished without a trace. Some say his spirit lingers still, watching over those who dare to seek the truth within the pages of forgotten history. As the candle flickered, casting long shadows upon the walls, Dr. Montague closed the book with a shiver. Some stories, he thought, were best left untold. In the grand halls of London's aristocracy, whispers of a peculiar man had begun to circulate. Lord Ruthven, as he was known, was unlike any other noble. His presence commanded attention, though his words were few, his gaze lingering upon those he encountered with an unnatural intensity. Some said he never truly smiled, nor did he ever seem to age. Others swore they had seen him vanish into the night, only to reappear in distant lands with no explanation. Aubrey, a young and impressionable gentleman, was fascinated by this enigmatic figure. The two soon became companions, embarking on a journey across the grand cities of Europe. But as they traveled, Aubrey began to notice strange occurrences surrounding his companion. In Rome, a countess known for her beauty and vitality was found dead, her face pale as the moon. In Athens, a merchant's daughter who had entertained Lord Ruthven fell ill, fading into a lifeless husk within days. Aubrey, though disturbed, dismissed these thoughts as coincidence, until the night in Greece when he discovered the truth. One evening, wandering alone through ancient ruins, Aubrey encountered a figure draped in shadow. The moonlight revealed a monstrous sight, Lord Ruthven, his once elegant demeanor replaced by something inhuman, feeding upon an innocent victim. Terrified, Aubrey fled, but his attempts to warn others fell upon deaf ears. When he confronted Ruthven the next day, the nobleman merely smiled, his lips a little too red. Sworn to secrecy by an unnatural oath extracted from him upon Ruthven's apparent death, Aubrey returned to London, haunted by his knowledge. Yet to his horror, Ruthven reappeared, his charm undiminished, and now set his sights upon Aubrey's own sister. Desperate to prevent the inevitable, Aubrey struggled to break free from the grip of the vampire's influence. But society would not listen, nor would they believe his ramblings of the supernatural. In this expanded version, we delve deeper into Ruthven's origins, his centuries-long reign of terror, and the secret societies sworn to hunt his kind. We follow Aubrey's descent into paranoia and despair as he pieces together the grim fate of those ensnared by the vampire's spell. His attempts to warn others fail time and again, and as Ruthven's wedding to his sister looms, Aubrey's mind unravels. By the time he is able to act, it is too late. On the eve of the wedding, Aubrey's sister vanishes, her lifeless body discovered at dawn, drained of its essence. Overwhelmed by grief and horror, Aubrey succumbs to madness, leaving behind cryptic writings of his experiences. And in the shadows, Lord Ruthven disappears once more, his hunger undying, his next victim already chosen. As centuries passed, the legend of Lord Ruthven persisted. And among those who sought to uncover the truth, one name stood out, at Kanchaknapong, R6FL. A scholar of forgotten myths, he dared to trace the footsteps of the creature through time, determined to break the curse that bound the vampire to the world of men. But some secrets are better left undisturbed, for Ruthven still walked among them, waiting for the right moment to strike again. The year was 1954, a time of suburban dreams and atomic anxieties. The town of Ash Hollow seemed like any other, neatly trimmed lawns, white picket fences, and a sense of order that masked the creeping unease beneath. Strange occurrences had begun to plague the town, whispered about in hushed tones at diners and barbershops. It started with the lights, flickering unpredictably, casting eerie shadows on the walls of perfectly kept homes. Then came the sounds, a low hum in the dead of night that unsettled even the most rational minds. The radio transmissions crackled with strange voices speaking in garbled, inhuman tones. And the disappearances, neighbors vanishing without a trace, only for their homes to be repainted, their existence erased as if they had never been. The story follows Detective Frank Holloway, a hard-nosed investigator with a past he preferred buried. When a well-respected scientist, Dr. William Greaves, is found dead in his lab, his face frozen in a look of unspeakable terror, Holloway is pulled into a mystery far beyond his understanding. Greaves had been working on something classified, something the government wanted to keep hidden. His notes spoke of a force beyond human comprehension, an entity that did not belong in this world. As Holloway digs deeper, he encounters Evelyn Carter, a journalist with a reputation for uncovering what others feared to acknowledge. Together, they uncover a pattern. Every 33 years, the town of Ash Hollow suffers a silent catastrophe, an event buried under layers of deception. Survivors, those who remember the past, speak of figures lurking in the fog, of doors that open to impossible places, and of shadows that move with an intelligence of their own. The deeper they go, the more the town begins to unravel. People Holloway had spoken to the day before suddenly no longer exist, their homes replaced by vacant lots. The mayor insists there was never a butcher on Main Street, even though Holloway distinctly remembers buying a steak there just last week. Photographs change when no one is looking, erasing evidence of those who vanish. The climax brings Holloway and Evelyn to the ruins of an old research facility just outside town, a place wiped from official records. Within its underground halls, they discover the truth, an experiment gone wrong, a tear between worlds that was never truly sealed. The entity, a being older than time, was not just feeding on the town, it was shaping it, rewriting reality itself. In the end, as Ash Hollow succumbs to the inevitable cycle, Holloway struggles to hold onto what is real. The fog rolls in, swallowing buildings and people alike. Evelyn disappears mid-sentence, her name slipping from his mind as though she had never existed. The town resets, the horror buried for another 33 years, until the cycle begins again. And in the final echo of reality, a name lingers on the edge of the void, at Kanchaknapong R6F, the only one who might remember, the only one who might stop it next time, if time itself allows.